Welcome to Men Pursuing More. I'm your host, Roger Maupin. I believe every man has the potential to push past his limits and strive for something greater. Whether you're a former athlete who is looking for what's next, a professional pushing through the daily grind, or someone simply ready to break through life's toughest challenges, if you're ready to step into the pursuit of something more, your pursuit begins now. Hey, welcome back to Men Pursuing More. I'm your host, Roger Maupin, and today we have Scott Zimmerman joining us. And Scott, before we dive into your story, I have a few sports questions for you. And first question, favorite all-time sports team?
Being from Los Angeles, thanks for having me, by the way, Roger, but being from Los Angeles, we have so many great teams, but I love the Los Angeles Lakers. Not that I'm the biggest sports fan, but I love the Lakers. My business partners had tickets for 30 years, so I've been really fortunate to go to a lot of games.
And that leads right in the next question. Favorite player?
Kobe.
Kobe. I love it. And then one highlight of any kind of sports team or player?
I would say I love Kobe, and I don't know how real it was, or if it's not, or if it was, but when he had that, one of his last games when he scored all those points, I don't remember how many, it was 80-something points. I don't know if the other team was letting him do it, but it was just an amazing thing to witness.
What a great way to go out for Kobe.
Yeah, totally.
If they let him or not, to score that many points.
Unbelievable.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into your story and tell us about your journey, about growing up in California, and share with us like where you grew up in California, like growing up when you were younger, some of the highlights and challenges for you along the way.
Okay, yeah, I grew up in the suburbs of Los Angeles, San Fernando Valley, they call it. Grew up lower middle class kid, family. Both my parents worked really hard. My mother was a payroll clerk for a company, and my dad was basically like a handyman. And so growing up, it was just a regular existence, nothing exciting. Played out like the old school days. Probably you and I played outside. It's a different time. I didn't know we didn't have a lot of money, but it was just a different time. You played outside, and that's what you did. From there, I just went to college, and then I got in the insurance business when I was 22.
Share with the listeners, you're sharing with me the reason working as a custodian, and then who you met working there. And then I remember you talked about working a minimum wage job and how you come to learn about this weekend sales training and some of the maybe like highlights and challenges along that way.
Yeah, no, thanks for asking. When I was in high school, I did work. I worked at a bagel store. But when I graduated high school, I wasn't going to work at the bagel store anymore, but I got a job as a janitor. And it was a full-time janitor for a very large building that was not too far from my house. But I was the guy it was a big building. It was like an aerospace type company. They'd call me, go fill up the guy's car. One of the executives' cars, there was a gas station, a gas pump on site. And I clean trash cans, bathrooms, the whole thing. But what was really interesting is the guy I worked for, his name was Chuck Shows. And not that he was anything, but he owned this large janitorial company. But Chuck would talk to me a lot. He'd come by and see how I was doing. And he would say, hey, he would talk about his nephew, Tony Robbins. And I'm 18. I have no clue who Tony Robbins is. Yeah, Tony Robbins has a castle. My nephew has a castle in San Diego. I'm like, I don't know who Tony Robbins is, but it was funny. Chuck would talk about his father, who was an illustrator for Disney. We're just talking. But years later, and it was actually this last October, I was at a Tony Robbins event, and I went up to Tony and I said, hey, we got a lot in common. I said, you've done much better than I have. But I said, I worked for Chuck Shows as a janitor. And he said, no, and he used a cuss word. And I said, I know all about your grandfather because Chuck was Tony's mother's brother. So Tony worked for Chuck. So did I. And so it's a funny story. He was just really blown away. I knew about his grandfather. I knew about his uncle. So it was funny.
You guys have some in common, you and Tony.
Yeah, that's what we got. We're both janitors. It's funny is at his events, he does talk about that he was a janitor. So one of his talks, he talks about a lot. So that's how he got started. And then just when I was in college, I was 19. I got my first car. I had a minimum wage job. I was actually a printer for a title insurance company. So a printer would get a number they would give, and you have to go to find the microfiche. This is old school stuff, and you have to find this certain document and hit print, and you put it in an envelope and give it to the realtors. But I just remember I went to the person who ran the title insurance company. I said, hey, can I get a sales job? Because I just remember seeing the salespeople come in, they were wearing a suit, they were taking people out to lunch. He had a company card. He said, no, you gotta have experience. But while I was working there, I was listening to the radio because we were able to play the radio while we were doing our thing. And over the radio, over and over, say, come and see Tom Hopkins, learn to be a top salesperson. I just heard it over. And then I would see these guys and gals come in dressed up. So I literally called the number. I bought a ticket. I didn't have any money. I went and stayed in Inglewood, California, a dumpy place. And I just was all in on, I want to learn how to be a salesperson. And I took the course for 3 days. Anybody who's listening to this is older. Tom Hopkins was probably the grandfather teaching how to sell. And while I was there, I saw a guy I knew from high school. And I said, what are you doing here? And I sell alarm systems. And he introduced me to the owner of the company. And that's where I got my first sales job.
Share with us, the listeners, your journey in sales now and where you are currently. And then share with the listeners some of everybody wants to hear about successes along the way, but also maybe some of the challenges along the way too.
No, yeah. The way I got into insurance was just I don't want to bore the listeners, but it's just my dad co-signed for a car lease for me, car payment. And I was getting my first car. It was nothing fancy. It was a Suzuki Samurai. Back in the day, for about 1 week, it was cool, that car. I bought it that 1 week, and then it was not a cool car. But anyway, I just remember going home after that thinking, if something happens to me, I don't know why I thought this, my parents would be stuck with this car payment. There was no way, now that it was expensive, that they would ever be able to afford. So a friend of mine sold insurance, and I went and bought a very small life insurance policy from him. It was like $20 a month or $25 a month. But if something happened to me, mom and dad would get the money to pay off the car. And this policy would build cash value in it or something. That's what it was. But in the following year, I was in school and I took a finance course and talked about IRAs. If you put money away, you can retire wealthy. And I went to that same friend and I bought an IRA. And he said, hey, you're in school, you're going to be done. You obviously believe in what I do. You should come and check it out. And his father ran the agency. It was called Mutual New York at the time. And it was a straight commission job. And of course, I got the job with straight commission and I was 22. And it was a very difficult start. I'm 22. I was in there to make money. And I didn't know really what I was doing. And you're getting trained in this older man's business. And it was a long time to be Rogers, a long time before I really figured it out. Trying to sell life insurance and disability insurance. And my friends are young. They don't really need it. And you're trying to talk to your friends, your family members, and feel for a long time. I just remember literally every Sunday, reading those want ads, circling, saying there's got to be a better way. But it took about 3 to 4 years of just really working really hard to figure it out. And while I was doing that, I was a janitor still at night, and I was delivering Mondays and Saturdays. I delivered pizzas, and 2 nights a week I was a janitor. So just to get money, so I could. It was a long haul. That's all I gotta say.
It shows you just your humbleness, your willingness that you could be all in, but you're still working a custodian job. You're delivering some pizza. Hey, kind of like whatever it takes to. And tell us about, like you said, it took about 3 to 4 years in any kind of business, if you're going into sales, going into insurance, that kind of 2 to 5 year plan. You always hear that 2 to 5 year plan. And share with us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I didn't realize at the time that it was a 2 to 5 year plan because it was painful. But I feel maybe times are a little different now than the way it used to be. Because it used to be you had to go out and see people and go do things. And now the world's a little different now. But I think in any business, if you believe in something and you really just believe in yourself and you just keep moving forward and you make little tweaks along the way, if you don't give up, there can be light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's just the part of the process of learning, crafting your tool of talking, being able to talk, communicate, doing the right thing, figuring things out. So for me, it was 3 to 5 years of really trying to figure it out. It's a different kind of business. It used to be like, I need to make money to, and then it switched to, let me just do the right thing. And I'm always going to get paid for doing the right thing. Because I'm just providing the best service I can. I'm always going to get paid. So it flipped it. It took a long time to figure that out, but that's when it flipped for me.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear for the listeners too, that are in a field such as yours, or they're just starting off and it's, hey, it's not going to come like right away. And it's kind of that 2 to 5 year plan. You just got to be able to tweak things along the way and humble yourself to others. And
Roger, so I'll just say I'm in my late 50s. I'm 57. I'll be 58 in June. And I was back in the day, I was really big. I don't know where I learned it from. Maybe I was going to that first Tom Hopkins sales training course, but I really got into personal development. I really not that I listened without understanding a lot of the time. Truth of the matter is I was young trying to figure it out. But I recently went back. This is real recent, within a week ago. Someone reminded me of Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret. And it's this old school thing on YouTube. And I've been listening to it, like listening to it 3 times last week, just reminding me, it's like what you think about, you become what you think about all the time. If it's negativity or if it's positivity. And I used to think that way a long time ago. Like I used to visualize, and this is what I want, this type of person I want to be. And anyway, it kind of reminded me, like, that is what life is. Like, whether it's, what you think about all the time and what you go for, what you put your attention to. If you do it enough, I think everybody's not, I think things do come true. It's just what's in your mind, your subconscious mind, and what you're going for. So what's important to you, whatever it is.
that's so good. And you think about how we need those reminders.
Yeah.
And the power behind like a mastermind group, and just people just feed you often, because we need that. It's easy to get kind of laxed and just go with the flow, and it's just things just don't feel quite right, and it just out of sync a little bit. And that's so good. But that kind of leads into share with the listeners your connection. You already talked about the connection with Anthony Robbins, but what you've learned along the way attending some of his kind of inspiring events. I know you've gone with your wife, and just kind of share with the listeners.
For me, Roger, it's been I would say to a fault, I'm a motivational junkie. I just trying to stay positive all the time. I joke and I say I believe in rainbows, unicorns, and butterflies, because it's people who do things big in life. They really do. They do believe in those things, whether it's Elon Musk or Steve Forbes. But I do believe in thinking positive. But I would say I've done a lot of, I'm in something called the Genius Network, and it's a networking group in Arizona that you get to go to 3 or 4 meetings a year with really high caliber people based on health, marketing, and business. And it's just, I'm around with some really solid people. That's been really helpful. But also this last year my wife went to a Tony Robbins event, which is funny enough, Tony Robbins, and she joined his Master Platinum group. And I joined with her. Like, she joined, and I said, I didn't want her to go like this and make stay flat. So I joined with her. And this last year, I've gone to a lot of events. And I will say it's been really good. But it's a lot of events. Either you're there, you're working on yourself, and you come back and you got to work, and it's hard to implement it all. So I'm definitely taking some time off from it. It's coming to an end. But I've gone to, it's all about thinking highly of yourself, and having your vision for planning, and there's business mastery, so you can really work on your business. And there's been other things too. Plus, you're surrounded by like-minded people that are the platinum partners everybody wants to better themselves, and they think differently. So it was a really great experience. I'm glad I did it. It was very expensive. It was very time consuming, but it was amazing. I may redo it. I just going to take a little bit of time off from it, because a lot of the members will go in for a year, take a year off, or take 6 months off, because you got to work on yourself still too, not just go to events.
You just said right there, we got to work on ourselves, and it takes work. It just doesn't come natural. I did it a few years ago. I'm good. It doesn't work that way.
I agree with you.
Share with us like some of the best advice that's ever been given you, and why was it the best advice, and who gave it to you? If you can think about.
I've heard a lot of good advice, but one of the things that just sticks in my head is my business partner Marty, and he talks about it a lot too. Is we used to have a coach, and he's one of the biggest coaches. It wasn't a personal coach; it was a group coaching session. But he's one of the biggest business coaches around. His name is Dan Sullivan. I don't know if he's called a strategic coach. He's been around for many years. But he had a line, and he said, "Show up on time, say please and thank you." But it was more like this: if you want to be really successful, you show up on time, you say please and thank you, and you follow through what you say you're going to do. And he would talk about it, people just did those things, The saying please and thank you is more like being grateful and showing appreciation, right? You have a much greater chance of achieving much more in life because you're doing all the right things. Appreciation, being grateful, following through with what you say you're going to do. People, and whether that's your spouse, your kids, your business, it's all the same thing, right? And showing up on time is a really good, not that by the way, I'm not perfect at any of those yet. Still, it's always thinking about it, but it does make sense though. And I try and think about that a lot open time. And I think I think those the little teeny things, when you think about it, make a big difference.
Like you just said, we're all a work in progress. Just continue that upward journey. That's so good. When was you had the most, I would say, personal, professional growth in your life, and what caused that growth?
I would say I haven't really thought about this, but to me, my biggest growth, and I don't realize it when it's happening, this is everything. I'm going through something personal right now, but it's like when you go through something very painful or a tough situation, that's when I feel like I get my most growth, because it's something challenging, and you have to figure out a way to get out of it or make things better. And instead of just being stagnant or not going to today's stuff. So that whether it's business or personal, I feel that's when my biggest growth is. I don't want to say I have a particular time, because I could probably name 100 times, like really crazy stuff. Not that bad, but it's just like stuff that you don't feel comfortable with. I'll give you an example. My daughter, she's 28 years old, and she had a baby. She's almost 29, but she had a baby 5 months ago. And 1 month after she had the baby, she had this episode. She had an aneurysm in her uterus, this rare thing. You can look it up. It was like five known episodes that have ever been known, because people usually die. Thank God her husband was home. And it really changed the way I think about things, a lot of things. And usually when I talk about it, I cry. So I'm not going to cry, but I feel like I want to. But part of it is, I'll try not to.
That's quite all right.
Yeah. Sorry. But part of it, I see your sign behind you. It says God. And I was never really religious, but I just became it. I think differently. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
No, and I appreciate your willingness, but also your vulnerability. And like for us as men, sometimes we have a hard time setting aside our pride. And we just want to be this tough, and we just don't want to share emotions. And there's times that we just need to.
Roger, I'll tell you the great thing about it is it's a rare thing. She almost died multiple times over that week, but it's 1 week later, she's at home and she said, "Dad, I'm in the refrigerator looking for food." Because it's just an aneurysm is, you can't prepare for it. It just happened. They fixed her, thank God, the hospital, and she got through it, and she's fine. The baby's fine. Thank God. But in my point, it was like, I just think differently just about life lately. Like it can be short, and the things that are really important are different than sometimes what my goals are. Like, I want a really amazing house or cars or what that stuff's all important. But I really have none of it. Just to have the things that matter to me most is my family. And just like, I can go on. There's so many stories. That's a really bad story. That's my worst story of my whole life. But lots of things like that, I think have changed me. Just like things that just happen in life.
And sometimes for us, it's not maybe just one event. It's maybe numerous events. So here it happens, and then we kind of learn from it, and then it's another one, and then maybe it's just one that just triggers a little bit, us in a good way. It's like it really brings out the emotions and maybe that intentionality, and that we just want to share. And we want to share with others. No, I appreciate that. And who are, like, when we're talking about influential people, who are some influential people like in your past or your present time that have really made an impact on you?
Mm-hmm. It's a weird thing I'm going to say, maybe not, but one of the most influential people in my life is my business partner, Marty. And we don't see eye at all. We're so opposites. It's yin and yang. He's the biggest pessimist in the world. And I said, I believe in butterflies and rainbows, but he's taught me just a lot about money, taking care of the people you love, just negative as pessimistic as he is. He's just got this amazing way of how he works with people, and he takes care of people, and he loves people as bad as he thinks the world is. And I learned a lot from him, maybe the most out of anybody, because it's so opposite of the way I think. It just makes me think differently, and he's taught me a lot, and it's really helped me over the years. We've been together since my 20s with him, and it's like just how to take care of clients and follow up, just small things to big things. He's one of my biggest. And then I would say I learn a lot from the gurus in the world, just paying attention. Tony Robbins. My mother, in a weird way, my mother is the most positive person in the world. And I think that's where I get it. As tough as her life has been, it's nothing really bad. But this woman is just so positive and always is looking at life for the good in life. And even when things are down, and I've learned a lot from her. I really appreciate her. Without realizing that I was learning, just the older I get, now she's 80 years old, she's got such an amazing insight, which I never really realized when I was young. I think I'm learning all the time, for sure.
Yeah, it's there's so many people we can learn from. When someone's opposite of us or their thinking's a little different, we kind of like maybe push back or we just don't want to listen to their ways. And I think there's a lot of people along our journey that we can really learn from and capture a little nugget here or there. Or, hey, that's a great idea. I'm going to have to take that with me. And I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah. All right, with wrapping this up, what are some final thoughts that you want to leave with men as they continue on their journey personally, professionally?
A couple things that I don't know if this will help, but there's just what I've been telling my own kids and new people that I've been meeting that are coming into my business is I just would not give up on your dreams ever. It's an easy thing to do because things can be really hard, but I think the biggest growth and the biggest gains are when you just keep pushing through. And I think it's just the world testing you, whether it's God or whatnot. Just if you really want something, it's there for you. It's not about money. It's about whether it's a relationship or how you feel about yourself, and it could be about things that you want if it is material. But I think just not giving up and maybe tweaking things along the way to get to when you get to where you want to go. So I've had a bunch of amazing successes. I realize it's like the tweaking and then staying consistent and believing myself and being positive, even when things are tough. Not everything works out, but I just feel like those things, if you keep pushing towards your goal, it can happen. It will. You have a much better chance of it happening by doing those things that I'm saying. And I'm not the first, I'm probably the last person to say, because millions of other people have said it, but I believe in that stuff. I really do. And I also, one other thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately over the last year is when someone is talking to you, your subconscious saying, hey, you shouldn't do that or you should do that. That's almost like a higher power just telling you what you should do because you know what's right or wrong. And it's a higher power saying, don't do that or do this. You keep going. It's something bigger than yourself. And I think when you listen to that, it's important to stop doing something that's wrong or keep doing the right thing. So those are my personal thoughts lately.
Scott, I want to thank you so much for being part of Men Pursuing More. Now, where can listeners find you and follow your story?
I appreciate that. When this is up, I'm going to have a brand new website. It's called thescottzimmerman.com. So you can reach out to me, look at my website, thescottzimmerman.com or scott@thescottzimmerman.com. Or if anybody has any questions or wants to talk, feel free to call my cell phone, 818-481-9342.
I believe you're on LinkedIn too, right?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm everywhere. Yeah, Scott Zimmerman. There's a lot of Scott Zimmermans out there, which is interesting. But I don't know any of them. But there's a lot of us.
That's a wrap with Scott Zimmerman. I want to thank you for being part of the Men Pursuing More podcast.
Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks for listening to Men Pursuing More podcast. Don't forget to follow us at mopandcoaching.com.